Hello, dear listeners, I'm Aiden. But before we can begin tonight's tale, let's create a space for calm, a place in which to let go of the day. Now take a deep breath in, slowly and all the way. Feel the air fill your lungs and lift the body, bringing lightness and clarity to it. On your exhale, imagine that you are releasing the weight of the day. Let go of thoughts that may be lingering or any worries. Just let them drift away like clouds in the sky. With each breath, feel your body softening, relaxing into the surface beneath you. If you enjoyed this story, please give us a like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. You can also support us on our Patreon, where you'll gain access to our Spotify playlist and early access to all our stories. Now, allow your mind to drop into your body. Imagine a place serene and peaceful, a meadow drenched in golden sunlight, a quiet forest where the trees whisper, or a cozy nook where everything feels just right. Hold that image in your mind and wrap yourself in it, as you would wrap yourself in a soft, warm blanket of tranquility. You are safe here. There is nothing at all you have to do, no task to accomplish, other than simply being. Tonight's tale is to guide you into deeper relaxation. With every word, let it carry you to a place of stillness, where the rhythm of the story matches the beating of your heart, slow and gentle, guiding you closer to rest. This time is yours, a moment when your mind can roam free and your body will renew. Now, let the story begin. In a quiet town nestled between rolling green hills, there existed tales older than anyone could remember, passed from one generation to the next in hushed whispers. These were the stories of Lirael, the fabled floating city hidden among the clouds. They said the city shimmered with golden light, its spires brushing the stars, and its streets paved with crystals that hummed with the energy of the universe itself. Yet, it was not just the beauty of Lirael that captured the imagination of storytellers. It was the mystery. According to the tales, time in Lirael danced to a rhythm of its own. A single day in the floating city could stretch into a year or shrink into a moment. Those who ventured there rarely returned, and those who did were never the same. They spoke of a profound peace and a strange melancholy, as though a piece of their soul had been left behind. The traveller, our protagonist, had grown up hearing these tales. A restless dreamer with a heart full of wonder, he had always felt drawn to the unknown. The world below, for all its familiarity, felt dull and unchanging. On starlit nights, he would sit on the roof of his small home, gazing at the sky and imagining Lirael, hidden somewhere behind the veil of clouds. One evening, an old wanderer arrived in the town. With a weathered face and eyes that sparkled like the stars, he spoke of a fleeting glimpse of Lirael during his travels. The traveller listened intently, hanging on every word. The wanderer claimed the city was real and reachable, but only by those who truly believed. He described a ladder of light that appeared at dawn, its steps vanishing into the mist. That night, as the traveller lay awake, his mind was a storm of curiosity and longing. Was this his chance? Could the fabled city be more than a story? The whisper of adventure grew louder, urging him to seek the ladder of light. The traveler rose before dawn, his heart pounding with anticipation. Wrapped in a cloak against the morning chill, he followed the wanderer's instructions to climb the highest hill, just as the first rays of sunlight kissed the earth. As the sky shifted from indigo to a soft lavender, he spotted it, a luminous ladder stretching down from the clouds. Its steps, crafted from pure golden light, seemed both solid and ethereal, swaying gently in the breeze. It was more magnificent than anything he had imagined, and yet it filled him with a sense of calm, as though it had always been waiting for him. With a deep breath, the traveler reached out and placed a hand on the first rung. Warmth surged through his body, a gentle reassurance that he was meant to climb. Step by step, he ascended, leaving behind the world he knew. The wind carried the scent of wildflowers and the faint sound of chimes, as though the air itself celebrated his journey. The higher he climbed, the more the earth below seemed to blur, its familiar contours fading into a sea of mist. The clouds grew denser, wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. And then, as he stepped onto the final rung, the mist parted to reveal a breathtaking sight. Lirael. The city floated like a dream, its golden towers glowing softly in the morning light. Bridges of glass arched gracefully between buildings, and lush gardens spilled over the edges of floating platforms. Rivers of light meandered through the city, casting shimmering reflections onto the streets. Everything seemed to hum with life, resonating with an energy that was both tranquil and exhilarating. The traveler stood in awe, his heart swelling with a mix of wonder and belonging. He had found it, the city of dreams, the fabled Lirael. Yet as he stepped forward, he could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of his journey. The first step onto Lirael felt like stepping into a dream. The traveler's feet touched the smooth surface of the crystalline streets, which shimmered under his boots as though alive. The air was light and cool, carrying a faint floral scent, and the faint hum of the city vibrated through his very being, a subtle, calming rhythm like a heartbeat. The city stretched out before him, an intricate tapestry of glowing spires, floating bridges, and lush gardens suspended in mid-air. Everywhere he turned, he was met with beauty that seemed almost unreal. Trees with golden leaves swayed gently, their branches adorned with blossoms of soft, iridescent hues. Rivers of liquid light flowed freely through the streets, their gentle currents reflecting the colors of the sky. As the traveler wandered deeper into the city, he noticed the people. They moved gracefully, their forms radiating a soft glow that made it difficult to discern where their physical presence ended and the light began. Each face bore an expression of peace and quiet contentment, though some held an undercurrent of mystery. A figure approached, their robes flowing like liquid silk. They introduced themselves as Anara, a guide of the city. Anara's voice was melodic and soothing, as if every word were part of a lullaby. "Welcome to Lirael," they said with a warm smile. "You have traveled far to reach us. Few find the courage to ascend the ladder." The traveler asked Anara about the city's wonders, its glowing streets, the floating platforms, the rivers of light. Anara's response was enigmatic. "Lirael is a reflection of those who come to it. Its beauty is shaped by your heart's truest dreams, but its mysteries require time to understand." As the day unfolded, the traveler explored more of the city, guided by Anara's gentle presence. He discovered soaring towers that hummed with ancient power, gardens where flowers sang when touched by the breeze, and a vast central square dominated by a towering orb of light that pulsed like a living sun. Yet beneath the wonder, he felt a subtle tension, as though the city was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As the traveler adjusted to life in Lirael, he began to notice the peculiar way time flowed within the city. The sun hung in the sky for what felt like days, casting the city in a perpetual golden glow. Yet he could not tell how much time had passed. Hours seemed to stretch and contract unpredictably, leaving him disoriented. "Time in Lirael is not like time below," Anara explained during one of their strolls through the city. "Here, it follows the flow of light and thought. It bends and dances with the lives of those who dwell here. For some, an instant can hold a lifetime of meaning. For others, years might pass in a breath." The traveler watched as a child played with a floating ball of light, laughing joyously. He turned to speak to Anara, only to find the child had grown into a young adult by the time he turned back. The sight was both wondrous and unsettling. Later, he encountered a woman sitting by a luminous fountain, her face serene but her eyes heavy with memories. She shared her story, how she had arrived as a young girl and spent decades within Lirael, only to find upon her return to the world below that mere moments had passed. "Lirael gives you what you need, even if you don't yet understand it," she said cryptically. The traveler began to wonder about the cost of such a gift. He thought about the people below, his home, his family, his life. What would it mean to stay in a place where time was so fluid, where days and years melted into one another like colors in a sunset? Yet, there was an undeniable allure to Lirael. The city seemed to promise something deeper, a chance to touch the infinite, to grasp a beauty and peace that eluded the world below. But as the traveler stood at the edge of a floating bridge, watching a stream of light ripple beneath him, he felt the weight of choice settle upon his shoulders. And then, in the distance, he saw it. A star falling from the sky, its radiant glow dimming as it plummeted toward the city. The people around him paused, their expressions turning solemn. Anara's face darkened. "It has begun," they murmured. "You must decide, traveler. Will you be the one to uncover the truth of the falling stars?" The traveler felt a chill despite the city's warmth. He had come seeking adventure and wonder, but it seemed Lirael was offering him something far more profound and far more perilous. The sky above Lirael had always seemed so calm, vast, still, and endless. But now, the first falling star streaked across the horizon, its radiant tail leaving a trail of silver light. It was a breathtaking sight, but there was something about it that felt off, like a disturbance in the serene rhythm of the city. The traveler had just returned from the floating gardens, his mind still filled with the beauty of the glowing blossoms that bloomed only at twilight. As the falling star pierced the sky, the atmosphere around him shifted, growing heavier, more tense. The people of Lirael, usually so serene, paused in their movements, their faces etched with concern. Anara, who had been beside the traveller, stopped and turned to face him. Their expression was unreadable, a quiet sorrow in their eyes. "It is happening," Anara whispered. "The stars are falling again. It is a sign of something breaking." The traveller felt a surge of unease. He had been told of the stars, but he had not understood their significance until now. The falling stars were not a natural event in Lirael. They were an omen. Each star that fell was a fracture in the city's balance, a sign that something was wrong. As the first star landed softly in the distance, the ground beneath the traveller's feet trembled. The people of Lirael began to move, gathering near the center of the city, where the great orb of light pulsated in a rhythmic pattern. The orb was the heart of the city, and the falling stars were tied to its power. When the stars fell, the orb's light would dim, and the city would begin to lose its glow. Anara led the traveller to the orb, where a group of elders had gathered. Their robes shimmered like the stars themselves, and their faces were calm, though their eyes held a deep sorrow. One of them, an elder with silver hair and eyes like molten gold, turned to the traveller. "You must understand," the elder began, their voice gentle yet filled with ancient wisdom. "The stars are not just falling. They are being drawn down by a force we cannot control. The city and its light depend on the harmony of the heavens. When that harmony is disturbed, the stars fall to restore balance." The traveller's mind raced. What could disturb such harmony? And why had the falling stars begun again? The elder's gaze shifted to the traveller, as though reading his thoughts. "There are those who seek to unravel Lirael's light," the elder said, their voice becoming grave. "To take it for themselves, to use its power for darker purposes." A chill swept through the crowd as the second star fell, this time striking the ground with a soft, resonant thrum. The traveller could feel it in his bones. Something ancient and powerful had begun to stir beneath the city, and it would not be silenced by time alone. Anara turned to the traveller, their expression firm. "You must choose now. Will you help us restore the stars and protect Lirael, or will you return to your world below? The decision you make will shape the future of both our city and yours." The traveller felt a weight settle on his heart. He had come seeking adventure, But this was no mere journey. It was a test, one that would require him to give more than he had ever imagined. Lirael, a city of wonder and mystery, was now in peril. And the stars, once symbols of hope and beauty, had become harbingers of something far darker. The traveller stood still, watching as the third star began its descent. The path before him was unclear, but one thing was certain. His journey had taken a turn he had not anticipated, and the fate of the floating city now rested in his hands. The traveller stood before the elders, his mind swirling with the weight of his decision. The falling stars had shattered the peace of Lirael, and each new star that descended made the city's once glowing light grow fainter, as though the heart of the city itself was weakening. There was no more time to linger in wonder. The very existence of Lirael, and perhaps even the world below, hung in the balance. The elder with the molten gold eyes spoke again, their voice heavy with the gravity of what was to come. The stars are drawn to a void within the city, a void that has been growing for many years. It is the emptiness of unfulfilled dreams, of wishes that were not granted. Lirael was never meant to be static, to remain unchanged in time. But now, it seems that the city's light has become a beacon, one that some wish to extinguish for their own gain. The traveller's heart ached as he listened. He had felt the peace of Lirael, the gentle pull of its energy, and the beauty of its floating streets. But now, it was clear that this peace was fragile, a delicate balance between light and shadow, between those who sought to protect the city and those who sought to control it. "You must venture to the heart of the city," Anara said softly, their voice filled with both reverence and sorrow. "There, you will find the source of the void, a place where the light of Lirael is most vulnerable. To restore the stars, you must give something of yourself, your essence, your time, your very being." The words struck the traveller like a blow. To give of himself, what did that truly mean? Could he truly sacrifice a part of who he was to save a city he had only just come to know? The elder continued, their voice full of compassion but without illusion. "What you give will not return to you. The balance must be restored, but it will come at a cost. Are you willing to pay that price?" The traveller thought of the world below, of his family, his life. To give of himself would mean to lose something. Perhaps time, perhaps the memories of his past, or even the chance to return. But the city, Lirael, was so much more than just a floating wonder. It was a reflection of dreams, of the hope for something better, for something that transcended the limitations of time and space. Could he let this city fall, knowing it held within it the light that had inspired so many? The choice before him was not an easy one. There was a deep, aching silence as the traveller contemplated the weight of what was being asked. The people of Lirael stood in solemn stillness, waiting for his decision. Anara stepped forward, their hand resting gently on the traveller's shoulder. "You are not alone in this. Every soul who comes to Lirael brings a piece of themselves, whether they know it or not. You are part of the city now, and the city is part of you." The words comforted the traveller, but they did not erase the sorrow that pooled in his chest. Still, he knew what he had to do. This was not just about Lirael. It was about the light that connected all things, the unseen thread that bound dreams, memories, and souls across time and space. The traveller nodded, his decision made. He would face the void at the heart of the city, and whatever the cost, he would restore the stars. With a final glance at the glowing orb in the distance, the traveller began his journey toward the center of Lirael, toward the source of the darkness that threatened to consume everything. Anara and the elder watched silently as he took each step forward. The weight of sacrifice hung heavy, but with it, the traveller felt the stirrings of something more profound, a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. Lirael had given him something, and now it was his turn to give back. As the traveller adjusted to life in Lirael, he began to notice the peculiar way time flowed within the city. The sun hung in the sky for what felt like days, casting the city in a perpetual golden glow. Yet he could not tell how much time had passed. Hours seemed to stretch and contract unpredictably, leaving him disoriented. Time in Lirael is not like time below, Anara explained during one of their strolls through the city. Here, it follows the flow of light and thought. It bends and dances with the lives of those who dwell here. For some, an instant can hold a lifetime of meaning. For others, years might pass in a breath. The traveller watched as a child played with a floating ball of light, laughing joyously. He turned to speak to Anara, only to find the child had grown into a young adult by the time he turned back. The sight was both wondrous and unsettling. Later, he encountered a woman sitting by a luminous fountain, her face serene, but her eyes heavy with memories. She shared her story, how she had arrived as a young girl and spent decades within Lirael, only to find upon her return to the world below that mere moments had passed. Lirael gives you what you need, even if you don't yet understand it, she said cryptically. The traveller began to wonder about the cost of such a gift. He thought about the people below, his home, his family, his life. What would it mean to stay in a place where time was so fluid, where days and years melted into one another like colors in a sunset? Yet, there was an undeniable allure to Lirael. The city seemed to promise something deeper, a chance to touch the infinite, to grasp a beauty and peace that eluded the world below. But as the traveller stood at the edge of a floating bridge, watching a stream of light ripple beneath him, he felt the weight of choice settle upon his shoulders. And then, in the distance, he saw it. A star falling from the sky, its radiant glow dimming as it plummeted toward the city. The people around him paused, their expressions turning solemn. Anara's face darkened. "It has begun," they murmured. "You must decide, traveller. Will you be the one to uncover the truth of the falling stars?" The traveller felt a chill despite the city's warmth. He had come seeking adventure and wonder, but it seemed Lirael was offering him something far more profound and far more perilous. The chamber grew colder. and the swirling vortex above the crystal pedestal seemed to pulse with an unsettling energy. The figure before the traveler loomed larger, its shadow stretching across the room, pulling the light from the surroundings until only the soft, flickering glow of the pedestal remained. The traveler stood at the threshold of a decision that would change everything. He could feel the weight of his past life pulling at him. Memories of the world below, of family and friends, and the dreams he had once cherished. But standing here, in the heart of Lirael, he also felt something new. A deep connection to this city, a resonance with its essence, as if the city had become a part of him. The figure spoke again, their voice calm but laced with an edge of finality. You came to Lirael seeking wonder, seeking peace, but now you must choose. The stars will fall, and the city will either remain a fading memory or rise into something far greater. The choice is yours. You may sacrifice yourself to restore the stars and the balance, or you may embrace the power that awaits. The traveler's mind raced as he thought of all that had brought him to this point. When he first arrived, the city had been a place of tranquility, of beauty beyond compare. The glowing streets, the rivers of light, the peaceful people, all of it had drawn him in, offering an escape from the world he knew. But now, the stakes were higher than he had imagined. The city's very existence was threatened, and the only way to restore it was to make a sacrifice. The figure's hand reached out, the darkness in their palm crackling with raw energy. What will it be? The stars are mine to command. Give me what I need, and I will let you keep your memories, your life, your dreams. Reject me, and you will lose everything. The traveler took a step back, his heart racing as he weighed the cost of the decision. He thought of Lirael, its beauty, and the way it had woven itself into his soul. But he also thought of the world below, of the people he had left behind. Could he really give up everything for the sake of this city? A city that was both a dream and a prison. Suddenly, the traveler understood. This was not just about Lirael. This was about the very nature of dreams, of what it meant to hold on to something, to make it real, even at a great cost. The stars had fallen because they had been forgotten, because the people of Lirael had lost sight of what made their dreams worth pursuing. With newfound clarity, the traveler turned to face the figure, his voice firm. "I will not give in to the darkness," he said. "I will not sacrifice what is real, what is true. Lirael must be saved, but not by becoming something it was never meant to be." The figure's expression remained unreadable, but the air in the chamber seemed to shift, a tension crackling in the space between them. "So be it," the figure said softly, almost sorrowfully. "If you reject me, then you will face the consequences. The stars will fall, the light will fade, and this city will crumble into nothingness. But you will never be the same, and you will never return to the life you once knew." The traveler stood tall, despite the weight of the decision pressing upon him. "I choose to protect the light," he declared, his voice carrying through the chamber like a steady flame in the dark. Even if it means losing everything else, I will not let this city become a hollow shell. There was a moment of stillness, and then, with a violent crack, the vortex above them began to collapse. The room shook, and the traveler felt the ground beneath him tremble, as though the entire city were being pulled apart. The figure before him dissolved into shadow, their form dissipating like smoke in the wind. The pedestal pulsed with light, and the stars, those radiant orbs, began to rise once more, shattering the darkness with their glow. The traveler felt his essence shift, as if something deep within him was being transformed, reshaped. He understood then that the price of his choice was not one of physical sacrifice, but of change. He was no longer the person who had stepped into Lirael, no longer the traveler who had sought answers and adventure. He had become something more. As the light grew, filling the chamber with an overwhelming warmth, the traveler realized that the city, though imperiled, had been restored. The stars, their light now radiant and full, were no longer falling. Instead, they circled above Lirael, casting their glow across the city like a protective canopy, restoring the balance that had been broken. The city was saved. But the traveler knew that his journey was far from over. He had given up the life he had once known, and though Lirael had been restored, he would never return to the world below. Instead, he had become a part of the city's story, a part of its heart, just as it had become a part of his. The traveler looked out over the glowing streets of Lirael, now bathed in the soft, steady light of the stars above. There was no more fear, no more uncertainty. He had found his place, his purpose, in a city that would forever be a reflection of dreams, both realized and unfulfilled. And though he no longer knew what the future held, the traveler knew that the light of Lirael would guide him through it, just as it would guide all who came after him. The journey, after all, was never truly over. It was only just beginning. The final chapters of Lirael unfolded beneath the stars, their once falling beauty now stabilizing, floating above the city in perfect harmony. The traveler, now forever bound to the city, stood at the edge of the great balcony, his gaze lifted to the sky. The stars were no longer falling. They were suspended in place, glowing with a serene, steady light that illuminated the entire city. It was a light that no longer threatened to fade, but rather bathed everything in its brilliance. As the traveler gazed up at the stars, he felt something within him stir, a sense of peace and understanding, something he had been seeking all along, though he had never known it. The sacrifice he had made, the choice to protect Lirael and its light, had not been an easy one. But now, standing in the heart of the city, he understood that the light of Lirael was not just a physical force. It was a living, breathing entity, a manifestation of dreams and memories, hopes and desires, all woven together into a powerful, vibrant whole. The city's energy had shifted too. The once fading streets had come alive again, their lights glowing brighter and more vibrant than ever. The trees in the floating gardens seemed to hum with life, their leaves shimmering in hues of gold and silver, and the rivers of light that wove through the city now sparkled like diamonds, dancing with the pulse of the stars above. Anara, who had been with the traveller from the beginning, approached quietly from behind, his steps almost soundless on the marble floor. He had witnessed the traveller's journey, his choices, and his sacrifice. Now, he stood by the traveller's side, both of them looking out over the city that had been saved. The city is at peace again, Anara said softly, his voice carrying a hint of awe. Lirael will never be the same, but in that change, there is hope. You have restored what was lost, and with it, you've brought balance to this place. The stars will continue to shine, and the city will continue to float, as it always has. The traveller nodded, feeling the weight of his journey settle into his soul. He had come to Lirael seeking adventure, but what he had found was something deeper, a connection to something eternal, something that transcended time and space. The stars, the city, the people, they were all part of something greater than themselves, part of a tapestry of dreams and hopes that stretched across the heavens. As the traveller turned to face Anara, he saw something in his eyes, something that had not been there before. It was a glimmer of understanding, a recognition of the journey that had brought them here, to this moment, to this place. You were right, the traveller said softly. I could not have done this alone. Lirael is not just a city. It is a reflection of all who live within it, a mirror of their dreams, their wishes, their hopes. I've learned that now. Anara smiled, a faint but knowing smile. And now you are a part of it. You have become a thread in the fabric of Lirael's light. Your journey, your sacrifice, has made this city what it is. And now you are one with it. The traveller's heart swelled with a quiet joy. He no longer felt the pull of the world below. He had found his place in the floating city, a place where light and dreams intertwined in a delicate balance. He was no longer a stranger to Lirael. He was a part of its story, its future, and its future would be his. The stars above twinkled brightly, their light reflecting in the traveller's eyes. The city was whole again. The journey had come to an end, but the light of Lirael would continue to shine, guiding all those who sought it. And with that, the traveller closed his eyes, feeling the soft warmth of the stars embrace him, knowing that, in the end, he had found his true purpose. Lirael's light was his light now, and together they would shine forever.